Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. So it appears we're having a meltdown in China and the government is trying to fix things. And let's just jump right into some details. China merges hundreds of rural banks as financial risks mount. And we're talking about basically out in the countryside, 2,100 banks this affects, 6.7 trillion in assets. It's really a lot. And the basic idea is that these banks have a bunch of bad loans. And so then the solution is you take all these banks with bad loans and you clump them together and you make bigger banks. I know. I mean, like it doesn't really solve the problem. It just kind of covers it up. And I say it with a straight face, like that's their solution is put a bunch of bad loans together and hey, maybe no one's gonna notice. It does sound reminiscent of what we saw with the '08 financial crisis. I don't know. There's no really good way to like say, hey, it's gonna work. I mean, they're still bad loans. You're just kind of repackaging them. I mean, this is the chart right here. So it's the teal line is what we're looking at. So at least the bad loans are a little bit better than they were, and the teal line I'm referring to actually is right here. But it is kind of and it has been going down a little bit, the bad loans, in terms of the rural commercial banks, that is. They're sitting at roughly, was it 3.48%? I was looking at U.S. numbers. This is like ratio of bad loans. Standard for us is like around 1.5. During the '08 crisis, it would like jumped up to like 5. So they're at 3.48. So not good, obviously. Because the issue is, I mean, you're always going to have bad loans. The question is like, how much can your system absorb? This was interesting. I was looking at this here, and they were saying here, China has disposed of bad debt equivalent to about 13% of gross domestic product. That's a lot. I mean, it just seems like that's too much, right? And then this is saying that the last big cleanup of banking system during 2016 and 2022. So this has been a long-running problem. And essentially, many Chinese people then are running for the hills, buying gold. So I know people always ask me on the channel, Chris, what do you think about gold? I always say the same answer. I'm not into it myself. Generally speaking, when it comes to gold on YouTube, most of the people on YouTube who push gold basically say, hey, the market's going to crash, you're all going to lose everything, and buy gold from my particular company, and I get kickbacks. Now, they don't necessarily disclose that they're getting kickbacks, but I'm just saying the channels that pump gold to you all the time, they're doing it not out of the kindness of the heart for their own benefit. So I just tell you the truth, I'm just not into this stuff. Now, it doesn't mean gold is worth something like that. I'm just not into it. However, this is very real. In Asia, at least in China, the sort of trust of the banking system, not so high. So people are like, you know what, I'd rather just have gold. The gold price, it has been going up. You can see here. So this is in China, this is from 2022, fourth quarter 4 to 2024. So it's, what is it they're saying here? 2,000 for a bullion. And moreover, I'm bringing this up because the Evergrande situation, we just talked about this yesterday. There was a ruling in Hong Kong that they have to liquidate everything, no more restructuring. And in fact, we looked at investing in real estate here in Korea, but it looked kind of shady, just like what happened with Evergrande. Watch my video on that. I did it just about a week ago, real estate investing in Busan. Take a look. I think it's interesting if you don't know anything about this stuff. Moreover, I want to mention as well, I talk about my experiences in China. I used to work there. I mentioned in my book and sort of how to get over corruption and problems. It's called Positive Angle, and check it out because I've seen this game played before. So this is why when I see a headline like this that they're merging banks, clumping a bunch of bad loans together. I've seen this game before the same way that we saw the '08 crash. Now it's interesting because there's a couple different takes on this. So I read an article. This was NPR, and they asked a couple people, hey, is this like the Lehman Brothers kind of situation? So one person made the case, no, it isn't. But I have two different numbers which don't quite coincide. So here they were saying Evergrande had been seeking a $23 billion debt restructuring plan. And I say, okay, $23 billion, I get that. And then there was another number that was thrown out in a Financial Times article where they were saying that Evergrande has $300 billion in liabilities. So I honestly don't think anyone knows exactly how much money is involved with this stuff, other than it's billions, and it's really quite a lot. There's another thing I wanted to share with you. This is sort of why I'm kind of sharing you this stuff. I just want you to understand that like there's a lot of money tied up in this stuff. The people who are going to get their money back first is going to be domestic. If you're not Chinese and you invested in any of this real estate stuff, chances are you're at the back of the line. So that's going to ruin a lot of trust in the system. And remember, this whole system, this whole modern financial system, is based on trust, right? I trust that I give my money to real estate developer. I trust that they're going to build said property, or I trust to put my money in the bank, and if I ever need to go to the bank get it out, it'll be there, right? But I'm sure you guys get the problem with this stuff is like if banks are lending out money and then people aren't paying it back, suddenly it breaks the whole system. Or if you're giving money to real estate developers and they're not finishing your property, again, the whole system sort of breaks. This is saying here also too, China invests roughly 20 to 30% of GDP annually in the economy's property and infrastructure sectors. And there was another big number that I saw, and I just wanted to share this stuff with you because I know maybe in the USA it doesn't feel like this stuff is happening, but we're all connected, right? So when I read something like this, it says many ordinary Chinese are seeing their real estate investments evaporate. Chinese households, and it's not everyone, but I think it's probably some or many. I mean, who knows what the actual numbers are? But it says Chinese households have 70% of their asset wealth in their apartments. So, for some people, you're losing a bulk of your wealth, right? If tied up into property. Moreover, there was more talking about this Evergrande situation. There's another thing that I was thinking about. They were comparing the Chinese situation now to Japan in the 90s. And we'll go through this here. This is from Goldman Sachs. So their report, it says, the magnitude of such figures hints at an uncomfortable truth for Beijing. By several yardsticks, China's weakness appear more pronounced. So Goldman's like, hey, this is worse than what happened in Japan than those of Japan some 30 years ago. And this is the key numbers that I thought was really astounding. I didn't realize it was this bad. The vacancy rate for urban residential property is around 20%. Doesn't that seem like ludicrously high? Vacancy rate. Well, it's the rate, but vacancy rate for urban residential property is around 20% in China. It seems really high, more than double the 9% in Japan in 1990. So they're just a bunch of empty apartments. I mean, it's really a lot. So they, I guess, basically overbuilt, and there's no one to buy these things. And if you try to get foreign money in, they don't trust it. Which, if you're back of the line, it's the Evergrande situation. It's hard to trust any of this stuff. Moreover, there's another thing I wanted to point out as well. It says here, housing prices are around 20 times household income compared with 11 times in Japan in the 1990s. Now, I want you to think about this. I was just give you some simple math. Let's say the average salary in USA is 50, just to make it really simple. And let's say the average home in the USA costs 500, right? Just make it simple. That would be about 10 times salary, okay? If we're saying that in China that the average housing price is 20 times household income, that seems a lot. Like, doesn't it? Or am I crazy talk? Now, to be fair though, to the USA example, let's say, because here we're talking about household income, right? And it was just compared even more. Let's say a household has two earners at the average of 50, so that would put you at 100. And right, 100 for the household, and then let's say the average price of a home is 500, something like that. So then that would be 5 times your average. Okay, so this even makes it even more crazy when we're talking like in China. If your house prices are 20 times the household income, think about that. It's insane. Moreover, I was thinking about this as well. If you have all these empty buildings. So, okay, prices must come down. I mean, it just would make sense. But the problem is like, there's probably a whole bunch of people out there that bought way too high. They can't sell it for, what they essentially borrowed off on it. And all these people are underwater. Like this whole system seems really fragile to me when I just look at these key numbers. This is why I wanted to bring this up to you guys. I think we face a similar situation in the USA. It just hasn't quite shown its head in this dramatic of a way. We may see it in other facets in the USA with slowdowns, because guys, like I mentioned before, we're all connected. All of our multinational companies, do business in China, right? Be it Starbucks, Microsoft, be it Tesla, any number of our big companies, Apple, etc. And so, like, if you're facing this crazy situation where people in China are just really, really worried, and so they're like, screw it, I'm buying gold, and the government's like, hey, you know what? Let's try to hide stuff, and like, and this is how you would do it. You would take all these little banks in the rural, and like you would put up a new sign, and you try to fool everybody. Hey, we got this new bank. Everything's good. But rest assured, Chinese people aren't that stupid, right? They know what's going on behind the scenes, right? They just like, hey, who are you trying to fool? It's like the same, bank managers still at the same place. Like it's not, or maybe they shuffle people around a bit. Maybe they'll put, person from city A to city B and people from city B to city A and try to fool people. But it's like, it's just, how about this? One of the things that I learned when I was in China is oftentimes it's not necessarily how things are, it's how things look. Meaning that sometimes you don't really want to fix the problem, you just want to make it feel like that you're trying to fix it. But I think they got something really problematic brewing under the surface here. So that's why I wanted to bring this up to you. I thought these numbers were crazy, and I know we're dealing with crazy Elon Musk issues in the USA, which is fun to talk about, and we do talk about it. We talk about tech earnings and stuff like that. But again, we're all connected, and don't discount the importance of Evergrande and this banking stuff in China. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this thing. Thank you again for watching, and I'll catch you next video.